What's up, guys? It's your boy Zowoki back with another Chris Watts video, of course, and with all of you guys letting me know and telling me that I should be probably watching this, is Real Killer's newest video, since we waited the allotted time to watch this, because Real Killers had asked me, so I'm politely doing so. We're going to watch it now, after we go over to his channel, subscribe, comment, like, and share, because this man putting these videos to us, or these videos that he puts together, for us to enjoy, get scared, and lose ourselves in terror. It can take a lot of work, a lot of effort, and I want to give thanks back to this man because he does good work on his videos. Also, before we go any further as well, make sure you guys are subscribed to my channel by hitting that wiper icon down the bottom right. Hit that bell icon next to it, so when I do post videos like this one, you guys will get that little ring notification that I've posted that video, and then you guys can watch, comment, like, and share. And again, thank you so very much for that love and support. I can't thank you guys enough. We're on our way to hopefully one day hitting that 100,000 goal, but I need your guys' help. So make sure you guys do so. And like I said, go to Real Killers, give him some love. And with that being said, I want to get into this video titled The Cell Next Door by Dylan Tallman. It's probably going to have NK written all over it, but let's take a look. For entertainment and Wilpon, Wisconsin, 2024. Been there before. 6 years in. I can't believe it's been 6 years already. Inmate Watts is now institutionalized. His daily routine is all he has now. By now, missing the little things no longer gets to him. Trees, home, cooked meals, and a walking dog are just old memories. That would suck. He traded all that. Inmate Watts also has a giant target on his jacket. He isn't your average guy looking forward to re-entry. He is serving 5 life sentences and can never move about the prison on his own due to his offenses against women and children, because everybody wants a piece of him. What goes around comes around. So he's pretty much suffering. 6 years in, is Inmate Watts doing well in prison? No, he's not.
So Inmate Watts has been buzzing all over the internet again. For those of you who aren't familiar with the case, Chris Watts did the unimaginable when he ended the lives of his pregnant wife and 3 babies in August of 2018. He was sentenced to 5 life terms and was transferred to a Wisconsin state prison for his own protection, leaving the public in shock as to the crimes committed and why he did it. 6 years, how time flies. In prison, it takes a little while to adapt. Those that have been in and out of prison all their lives can settle in well, but for a person to have never been in trouble with the law and have to face that new reality of never getting out, it can take its toll. These are usually the ones you hear about taking a swan dive off the top tier or swinging from the neck. We all have our limits. It's in our human nature to stay alive and survive, and inmates find ways to trick the mind that things aren't so bad. Nighttime lock-ins are usually the hardest. That's when we lay down, alone with our thoughts. A family member we miss comes to mind. Our life as it was before our decision to commit the crimes that landed us in prison. All the good, happy memories sometimes flood in. And yes, it's nice to remember, but it's also a reminder of the tragedy and loss of liberty. Like I said, inmates have their good and bad days. Sometimes it's better to forget about what's gone forever. Prison is designed to torment, so that if given another chance, we don't re-offend. Wishing we could go back and change things. Trying to block out your old life is easier said than done. Chris at this point is now institutionalized. His routine is all he knows and all he has. I'm betting that the memories of his family eat away at him every night, like an old dream in a past life. Chris seeks comfort in religion and hopes to find peace within. Has he found it? I don't think so.
Gosh, it's just, what? You're an idiot for doing this. Oh, it just upsets me. It's like, I put myself in his shoes. I wouldn't, but I'm just thinking about it. And him doing what he did, I could not trade this, what I do for you guys, my family, my friends. I wouldn't trade any of that for a woman. It doesn't make sense. He could have divorced. He could be still seeing his girls. He could be trying to co-parent with Shanann and being with Nicole. Probably not. She probably will go on to the next guy anyways. So he's probably just a rebound for her, or just have or what do they call it in that one movie, skip, where you skip this guy, you do it, but you go to the next guy. And then you marry that person. Probably what happened with Chris Watts with Nicole. So, let's continue.
I recently bought a book titled The Cell Next Door by Tallman, a former inmate at the Dodge Correctional Institution who just so happened to be housed right next to inmate Watts. I listened to him talk about his experience on a live stream by Alex Erickson, and I found it very interesting that Chris Watts allowed Dylan to get close to him. It's hard to trust anyone. As I said before, everything is worth something in prison, and Chris Watts has information, valued information.
Okay, so you make a phone call to
Is it still true, though?
Dylan getting placed right next to Chris Watts may have saved Chris's life. It gets lonely in there, especially wearing a jacket like Chris's. Even Dylan Tallman mentions how Chris was an outcast. Everyone needs someone, and Dylan came just in time. He states in his book that Unit 11 was a single cell unit for troubled inmates. Dylan Tallman was kept in a temporary lockup, TLU, and had been to 2 mental health facilities dealing with his circumstances. It's not easy when we are alone with our thoughts for too long. Inmates lose their shit. Only being out for a couple of months must have been rough, having to go back. Some folks aren't meant for parole. They call it life on the installment plan, and some inmates in violation prefer to finish out their time because they know parole and probation isn't going to work for them. For some, it's a hard time to drop clean, and others can't stay away from the gang life or other felons and weapons. Dylan states in his book, The Cell Next Door, I went from society to Dodge Correctional Institution in a matter of a month. They didn't even want to put me in general population yet due to my past and who I was, so they kept me in TLU, temporary lockup, which explains why Dylan was put in a special management unit on January 9th, 2020, Unit 11 at the Dodge Correctional Institute. He was housed in cell number 13, right next to inmate Watts, who was...
I really want to see what his cell looks like. Can we get like a MTV Cribs look at Chris Watts and his jail cell?
Housed in 14. The two became friends and grew close.
The trust of the innocent is the liar's most useful tool. Stephen King had a lot of good quotes.
Becoming institutionalized in prison impacts an inmate's behavior and identity. Institutionalized refers to the process by which inmates adapt to the norms, values, and routines of the prison environment, to such an extent that they become dependent on it and struggle to function outside of its confines. The fear of other inmates is a pervasive issue that further complicates an individual's experience in prison, often leading to heightened anxiety, stress. I'm sure others have tried getting close to Chris, but he has every good reason to be sketchy. There are a lot of things that happen in prison that we might never hear about. Threats, what an inmate might do to his food, even an attack. It's not something the warden would want getting out if Chris got attacked. In fact, they would ask him not to make a big deal about it. By now, I'm sure inmate Watts knows prison politics have a way of working itself out. As long as Chris's name keeps buzzing in the media, and he doesn't get on anyone's bad side, They should be able to keep him safe in a special management unit.
It sounds like it's not getting any better in there.
My cell was a decent size. I had to lock in because we only came out of our cell in the morning on non-shower days for an hour. However, it was usually less because we would be let out late. At night, we were supposed to be let out from 6 to 7:30 p.m., an hour and a half. It was mid-afternoon when I set my Bible down and decided to knock on my wall to see who my neighbor next to me in cell 14 was. Yeah? Come to the electrical outlet on the wall. Can you hear me? Yeah. What's your name, bro? It's Chris. I'm Dylan. Dylan knew that they would be able to hear each other clear as day through the electrical outlets on the wall as they are connected to the same spot. We traded introductions. Chris explained who he was, and I elaborated some about my cases and my situation. He seemed like a very nice, normal guy and humble as ever. He told me that he had a life sentence, and I asked him why. He told me that he is accused of killing his family. I leaned off that subject, and we got to talking about where we were originally from. I am from Michigan, whereas he is from North Carolina. I could slightly notice that in his accent. What is your faith? Chris asked me. I am a believer in Christ. How about you? I asked. Same, he answered. I was relieved that he was not a Muslim, as I had this conversation before with a few people. Wasn't a fan of doing so and didn't want to again. You have a Bible? I asked. Absolutely, Chris replied, quickly and surely without hesitation. Let's perhaps study then. Are you busy? I asked. I asked this to challenge his spiritual knowledge because I was so well versed in the Word of God. I doubted he was anywhere near my level of knowledge of the Word. I was wrong. To my surprise, he matched me in biblical knowledge. We studied until 2-3 a.m. the day we met, and this became routine. We went to gym, we went to chapel, we ate, we went to the day room and used the phone. We studied the Word of God. I was in a rut mentally. I hated my miserable existence until I met Chris and got into our routine. I hardly wanted to go on anymore until I felt awakened again spiritually, and Chris had something to do with that. I finally had someone that was actually intelligent enough.
This is probably why people think that Chris is why he thinks he's the newfound faith for making people happy and enjoy themselves, and he can do that out in public now. Nah.
To talk to now, and I didn't have to be cuffed up before leaving my cell anymore. My sanity was returning as I conformed to A&E status. I was still not a convicted prisoner as of yet. Sometimes the right people enter our lives at the right moments. Was this God's doing? Maybe. I honestly thought Chris Watts would have ended his misery by now. Like I said, prison sucks, especially when you're facing 5 life sentences and have never been there. So Dylan explains how Chris Watts helped him get through some tough times. But he too helped Chris get through what was probably even tougher times for Chris. When I was at the Dodge Correctional, I did everything I could to help my time go by as comfortable and as fast as possible. I was the first one up in the mornings to volunteer for Chow Run. I was housed in the barracks after A&E. The barracks is a cakewalk compared to where Chris and Dylan were housed. We were in an open setting with bunk beds, positioned around tables and chairs, but we can lay in bed and watch TV right from where we laid. People still got down and met in the head to settle any differences or beefs. One guy would stand watch while inmates went head up. It was a cool area to do your time if you weren't the fish wearing a jacket like inmate Watts. Most of the inmates housed in the barracks were just waiting to get transferred to their next institution. I knew that inmates housed at Dodge were max status and most likely leaving in a body bag. COs would sometimes ask for volunteers to go spend time with inmates with terminal illnesses, read them a book, or just talk to them about how they're feeling. I thought about those inmates a lot and how lonely it would feel to have to take your last breath at that place. This is something Chris has to look forward to one day. Life in prison gets lonely when you don't have a woman to talk to and keep you company. The woman in my life had fallen off already, 9 months into my bid. Every day, Chris would get a gang of letters. The correctional officer would do his mail round around the cell hall and have a load of mail. He would stop at cell 14 and deliver all of the stack to Chris. He would say sorry as he passed my cell empty-handed. Honestly, it would piss me off. Nobody gave a damn about me except my mom, my cousin Bree, and my Aunt Joy. He had a lot of fangirls and his girlfriend Anna. He also had his parents. I didn't have as strong of a support system as I do now. That partially has to do with where I was at in life. I didn't get mail again today, so let me live my life through you, I said to Chris. Chris would read his fan mail to me every day. Occasionally there would be hate mail. It was not until a few weeks into his routine that Chris decided to give me one of his fangirl letters. It was one night when we were talking that he told me that he had a girl for me to write to. "Nah, man, I don't want any of your groupies," I told him. "Well, this one is probably the one for you," he said. "If she is a good one, then why are you giving her to me?" I questioned. "Because the Lord told me to give her letter to you," he explained. He never wrote to her, and instead of throwing her fan letter in the trash, he decided that perhaps I would give her a shot. So I did. Her name was Chrissy. She was 42. She sent a picture that appeared to be short, pretty, and perhaps Italian. In her letter, she wrote to Chris, she presents that people deserve forgiveness and how she doesn't judge. She claimed to have lupus like his wife did and also claimed to be a licensed clinical psychologist. Chris was not trying to hear any of it and gave me the letter. He said it was from God. However, later I would learn that it was truly from Satan. I wrote her a letter saying that I was writing her because Chris gets so many letters similar to hers. However, her letter stuck out, and with him and I being close, he entrusted me with it. I explained who I am and what kind of man I am. I held no punches. I was 100% with her. She loved my letter, or so I thought. However, she responded to me saying Chris's name 7 times and my name only twice. Did you know that people sell letters, phone numbers, and addresses in prison?
That's crazy.
Yeah, you can buy yourself a pen pal in the joint. That's why in an older video, I warned about writing inmates that you don't know in prison, because you never know where your info will end up.
That'd be crazy.
Chris wanted Dylan to have someone to write on the outside, knowing how much that alone has helped him get through his own time. Chris and I began making plans for when we got out of prison. Now we needed to get him out of prison. We began to go over his case and the facts of his case. I knew the law very well by being a convict my entire life, so I was going to try to help him. "Brother, what the hell happened that day you were being accused of all this?" "I can't remember a lot." He then sighed and added, "It wasn't my hand." "Well, just tell me what you remember," I asked him. He seemed to be racking his brain. "I was having an affair with this girl, and I ended up in love with 2 women at the same time," Chris explains. "So this has to do with what happened?" I asked. "It was what led up to what happened," he informed me. "So tell me about the mistress," I asked. "She is of evil spirits like Jezebel," he confessed. "Let's just call her Jezebel then," I suggested. "That suits her," he agreed. We laughed a little at this. He wasn't going to open up more on the actual incident, so I tried something that would be a little more comfortable for him. Plus, he was becoming cool and I didn't really want to spoil my opinion of his character just yet. However, I don't think I would have judged him because I had been around some inmates convicted of worse crimes, believe it or not. "What made Jezebel so evil?" I asked. "Proverbs 7:26 and Proverbs 7:27, Chris answered. And that was as far as we got on the case that night. Proverbs 26:27. For she has cast down many wounded, and all who were slain by her were strong men. Her house is the way to hell, descending to the chambers of death.
Nicole.
I'm betting it was at this moment Dylan was treading lightly about giving Chris false hope. Prison tends to reveal one's true self to others. Although Chris may have been truthful about his description of his mistress, he also reveals himself a liar. If he were in love with two women, how could he allow himself or anyone else to take the life of one of them? How does he explain the loss of his babies? It just doesn't make sense. Dylan says, after reading the passages he provided me that night, I had the idea that he was trying to tell me his mistress had something to do with the case.
Traded all this for another woman.
A lot of channels have been reviewing Dylan Tallman's book, and whenever I can get a unique perspective about a case or offender, I do. And Dylan Tallman's book definitely brings that to us. I find it a great read, and I touched on a few points in the first book. So I recommend picking it up because there's so much more to read, and you should buy it. Chris Watts is a lifer. He isn't going anywhere. There will be other inmates who will get placed in a cell next door to him. Dylan Tallman will be a free man one day and write more books, go on with his life. Chris's nightmare will continue. There will come a point in time where Chris will no longer allow himself to make friends. He will come to realize that it's easier that way for him. It can't be easy watching inmates come and go. What's the point in making friends? I'll leave you with the poem. In the corridors of endless time, I paced the path, a lifelong climb. Faces come and faces go, a transient tide, a fleeting show. I watched them enter, fresh with dread, their hopes like flickers quickly shed, and one by one they find release. While I remain, my chains increase. In this revolving door of pain, connections feel like links in chain. I grow attached to bond, to care, is to invite a deeper snare. I see the spark in eyes newborn, the rise, the fall, the quiet mourn. For bonds in here they cut too deep, a wound in which old ghosts still weep. So I withdraw, a silent ghost, a shadow who avoids the most. For fear is now my constant friend, afraid to break, afraid to bend. Each fleeting friendship leaves a scar, reminds me of how trapped we are. The walls, the bars, the locked embrace reflect the solitude I face. Yet in this cold a truth persists, in solitary the heart resists. For hope, though dim, can I still ignite a glimmer in the darkest night. And so I guard my fragile soul, afraid to fill, afraid to hold, watching inmates come and go in this life where time runs slow.
Real killers, you know how to do it, man. This guy knows how to put a video together. So with that being said, on this, The Cell Next Door, I read parts of it. I haven't read all of it. Maybe I should read it all, but I don't know. This is a part 1, it looks like, that Real Killers is doing, so maybe we'll have to do a part 2 reaction on the next part, because I just don't know if I can follow this man's book, because who knows if it's a lie, if it's the actual truth. Like, even if we get the truth from Chris, would we believe it? Because we think this man is a complete liar. Yeah. So, with that being said, comment your guys' thoughts on the video. Of course, I would love to read them. Hit the like button for the obvious reasons that we'll hopefully one day get that justice on Nicole Kessinger. I just have that feeling. It's gonna be time, but we'll get the justice. Please don't forget to subscribe, of course, to Real Killers and myself, and we'll see you guys in the next one. So keep it real, keep it safe, and as always, keep nerding on, and we'll see you guys in the next video.